So if you can hear me, please go ahead and type in where you're from. Okay, hello, Stari Sambir. Am I saying that correctly? Sambar? Varash. Where's Varash? Which region is that in? I don't know that city. Some people coming in from Kiev and Kharkiv. I'm in Kiev today. The weather is kind of overcast, unfortunately, but spring is on the way, right? Let's see. We have people tuning in from Kherson. I'm planning to go to Kherson this summer. I'm very excited. I want to go sort of see Askania Nova and Aleshki Sands. So it's nice to see people tuning in from all over the country. Let's see, I'm in Kiev myself, like I said. I'm originally from New York, but I've been working in Kiev, in Ukraine, for about, I think 3 years now, kind of on and off in various times of my life. So I first came here in 2016 in the beginning, and I was only supposed to come for about a month or two, and I ended up really liking it. So I stayed for like another 15 months after that, and then left for a while, but I miss Kiev, so I had to come back. I started again here in Kiev in September, yeah. Okay, if you have come to any of my webinars before, it's very nice to have you join us again. I've done a couple for Internal now, and it's always very exciting for me to be able to communicate with professional teachers all around Ukraine. I see some of you are from Zhytomyr and Nizhyn. I'm sorry, my pronunciation of Ukrainian names is so bad. Dnipro. I was in Dnipro a couple of years ago, and I'm thinking maybe I'll try to go and visit again this summer. It was so hot last time I was in Dnipro. I couldn't really enjoy the city because it was just, I don't know in Celsius. I'm American, so we use Fahrenheit, but it was incredibly hot. So I'd like to go back to Dnipro, and maybe it's not so hot. Lutsk. I was in Lutsk in the fall. I finally got to see the castle. Oh, I forget the name of the castle in Lutsk, but you guys know the Lutsk castle, and it's very cool to like see it on the 200 hryvnia note and then see it in front of me. Rivne, I've been to Rivne, very nice. I went to the Tunnel of Love, like a lot of probably tourists do. Chernihiv, I've been to Chernihiv, and it's really lovely. I feel like a lot of expats and travelers don't know about Chernihiv, but it's so close to Kiev, and it's so historical and very pretty. As is Ternopil. I really like Ternopil. I feel like Ternopil is like a hidden gem in Ukraine. Very sort of, the lake is beautiful, and see, I'd like to go back there too. There's too many places in Ukraine to go and enjoy. Okay, so let's just do I have another quick question. I've kind of gotten to know where you guys are from. What kind of students do you guys teach? Do you teach primary students or secondary? Maybe you teach at a private language center or university. So just type in the chat box what age and what sort of situation you teach in. So let's see, first through 10th, secondary, private. Okay, all right, so you have a lot of different things, mostly focused on sort of students. I mean, okay, university, great, yep. I'd like to really learn more about English education in university in Ukraine. I feel like I know a little bit about like primary and secondary now. I work for London School of English, which is Dinternal's sister company. I'm a senior teacher there, so I teach everything from like primary kids. I have 2 primary classes. It's like a sort of after school situation for them. Well, in quarantine, it's kind of like everything is after school, I guess. I also have teen students, and I teach adults. So I teach like the whole range. It's very interesting. It keeps me on my toes for sure. And are you guys teaching online? Have you all moved? I'm assuming everyone's moved everything online. Are you finding it fun or challenging? I definitely have had different experiences depending on my students. I found that adults adjusted a lot easier. And actually primary kids adjusted pretty well too. Secondaries, I don't know. I think they're a little bit tired of everything. They miss seeing their friends in person. So, okay. Well, welcome everyone to Dinternal's webinar of today. Like I said, my name is Amy Butler. I am a senior teacher at London School of English, which is Dinternal's sister company, and we're very happy that you could come join us today. I'm originally from New York City, but I've been teaching for 7 years. Well, here, I'll actually show you. I have a little bit of a slide about me. I've been teaching for 7 years now. I got my CELTA first in New York City, where I'm from, and I taught there for a little while in multilingual classrooms, which was very interesting. It was mostly adults. We had some teens too, but it was mostly adults, university students from all over the world coming. So I had a very interesting time my first 2 years, but then I decided that I wanted to travel and teach English. So I've taught English now in Singapore, Ukraine, obviously, Georgia, Moscow, and I did my Delta Module 2 in Poland, so I have some experience with Polish students as well. They were excellent to work with. And now I am back in Kiev after a short sort of a side trip away to work on my Delta and do some other things. I'm back in Kiev as the senior teacher at London School of English. So we're all online at London School of English, and Dinternal asked me to do some webinars with you guys, and I'm more than happy to. So this is me 7 years ago with my CELTA sort of cohort in New York City and one of our trainers. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot on the CELTA. I don't know if any of you guys have done the CELTA, but there's definitely lots of opportunities in Ukraine to do the CELTA. And then eventually I moved to Ukraine and really liked it here. And this is my family. They came to visit about 3 years ago. I guess it was 2017, longer ago than I realized. 3 years ago, they came to visit. And as you can see, I took them all around I took them as much as I could around the country in 10 days. They came to Kiev. We went down to Odessa. We went to Lviv, and they had a great time. We took the overnight train everywhere, and they were excellent at it. They don't travel much internationally, so I was very proud of them for their sort of like gumption and spirit in traveling around Ukraine. This was me last year, and last year I was actually working in Moscow. And the reason I'm putting this photo up here is because when I was in Moscow, I decided I wanted to do something totally different. I had been working in like private language centers for most of my career, and I decided that I wanted to try very young learners. And so I applied for a job in Moscow with an immersion English primary school. And I ended up working with 3-year-olds. And it was a really unique experience. A lot of the students that I worked with came in and they had 0 English. They were still learning their own language, first. So it was a true insight into how students can learn a second language and acquire it in sort of an immersion classroom. And I'm going to reference this a lot because what we'll see in islands is that they mirror a lot of the things I saw in immersion situations, the way that learners acquired language. So it's super, super interesting. Working with 3-year-olds in an English immersion situation for hours a day was really interesting. And most of the students by the end of the year, they were speaking English to varying degrees, but they were able to sort of spontaneously produce and communicate. It was truly incredible. But I also miss teaching adults. I realized it was a cool experience, but teaching very young learners was not for me. So I came back to Ukraine, and I came back here partially because of the incredibly professional atmosphere there is in the English teaching community. This is me earlier this academic year. This was in October, I think it was, at an ELT conference. I gave a presentation on how to include more diverse accents into our listening texts. And I actually gave a similar webinar a couple weeks ago. Maybe some of you came to my Global Accents webinar. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago here with Dinternal. And you can find that on their YouTube channel if you would like to know more. So that's a little bit about me. Let's focus a little bit more on you and what you can get from Dinternal. So Dinternal is offering a lot of professional development, especially now that we're in quarantine and everyone has free time. So we have Facebook live streams every Thursday, every day at 5 o'clock. And we welcome you to join us with Mariana, one of our Dinternal methodologists. Sorry, my Ukrainian, I can't read anything in Ukrainian, so I'm just going to let you guys read all of the information about these exceptional sort of live stream situations with Mariana. We also have a new product from Dinternal. It's online teacher training courses run through Zoom. I don't know if any of you are using Zoom right now for your classes. I'm using Zoom for all of my classes and meetings. Yep, I see some of you are using Zoom. So you'll be familiar with the platform already. This is a new product from Dinternal. It's for teachers. It's like a short course. It's very affordable with our methodologists. So if you are interested in that, we have 2 different groups running, and we welcome you to check out the link. You can see in the chat box, my moderator has just added the link. All right. And as you probably know, because you're in one of these webinars, we're doing a huge campaign about our books and what you can do with them, how you can use them in your classroom. So this is going on till the 22nd. So you have a few more days to catch some of our webinars, and you get to see our product line. You can see how you can use these books in your classroom. Maybe you're thinking of changing some of your resources for next year. These are all free. And we're also offering promotions at the end of every webinar, so they're really worth checking out if you've got the time. And you can see the link in the chat box from my moderator. Okay, so if you come to any of these webinars during our book campaign, you will get some special offers, which I am going to tell you about now. We have 3 different special offers, so lots for you to gain from these webinars, not just knowledge. The first is you can get 25% off of the product that's being sort of presented in that webinar. So today, at the end of the webinar, I will give you a 25% off discount code for an Islands purchase, any of the Islands books. Okay, and so the same thing with the other webinars about other books, you can get discount codes for those books. We're also offering a really cool resource. We have our entire Dinternal web library online as a digital resource, so you can see the different books as well and all the materials. We have this on what's called the e-panel. And for coming to the webinar, we're offering a month for free of the e-panel. So you can sort of browse the entire digital library. You can see a link there in the chat box for it. If you have any sort of problems with accessing the e-panel, you can just call our offices, tell them that you watched the Islands webinar, and that you're asking for your free month to browse all of the resources we have there. Another really cool digital resource that we have is My English Lab. I don't know if any of you are current users of My English Lab. I use it for lots of classes now. I first started just using it with my exam preparation classes, but since quarantine, we've actually started using it with a lot of our classes, general English as well. And this is cool because it offers digital activities. So students can go on, you can set tasks for them and they complete them. And then the greatest thing of all, they get instant feedback from the system. So you don't actually have to go in and grade and mark their homework or their activities, their tasks anymore. So we have over 10,000 users already for My English Lab, and we're offering 60 days for free. So you can see in the chat box, there's a link to find out more information to get your 60 days for free. You don't have to be a Pearson product user already. You can just try it out and see what you think. Do you think this is especially a useful tool for universities as well? So if you have any questions about that, you can always call us at Dinternal. We're happy to answer questions. So those are our 3 promotions. And then, of course, for attending this webinar, you will get a certificate. It will be in your email within a week. So if you don't see it within a week, then you can give us a call. But first, actually check your spam box because it might have gone to spam. So there you go. All right, and we'll have a little bit of time for questions and answers at the end of the session. If you have any questions during the session, just type them into the chat box. If I can answer it like in the moment, I'll try and do that, or my moderator is going to collect the questions and we'll talk about them at the end as well. So today's webinar is about islands, the Islands series. We have 6 of them, and we think that when you use islands, you take your learners on an adventure of language learning. And we'll see why we call it an adventure and why we think that these books are so engaging for learners. Perhaps some of you already use islands. If you have, you can just type a little chat in the chat box. I'd be interested to see. These are our 4 most popular. Like I said, we have 6, but these are kind of our 4 most popular that we're going to delve into today. So when you are choosing a resource for your primary students, what kind of things are important to you as teachers? There's lots of resources out there that are available. Just type into the chat box, what kind of things are important for you as a teacher? Obviously, you have to think about what your students want, but you probably also have demands from the school. You have to think about what the parents want. Are there any sort of features of resources that you really require in order to choose it for your classroom, to think it's going to be the most effective? Okay, so I see some people are saying pictures, yeah, songs and video, a lot of audio visual stimulation, right? Games as well, good, yeah, have to keep them active and engaged, your students, they've got lots of energy. Okay, good, so a lot of sort of the similar things that I look for too, what I'm looking for, something that will really catch my students' attention, maybe won't seem so much like school for them, because kids have a different approach to education and learning than we do as well. Okay, yep, I see videos. Elena, you got an answer to a question that's coming up in a minute. All right, so one thing that we have to think about as teachers is that our approach to materials and resources is definitely different than a student's approach, what they want. And something that I like to keep in mind when I'm looking at resources is this. Maybe you can finish this quote, this sort of proverb, I guess. One of the most obvious facts about grown-ups is that they have forgotten what it is like to be, oops, I sort of started to finish it myself. What do you think the ending of this sentence is? What have adults, grown-ups, forgotten throughout all of the years? Because we have so many demands on us as teachers, right? Expectations from parents, from the schools, from ourselves. Yep, you guys are right. We've forgotten what it's like to be a child. So all of these expectations that we have as grown-ups, we have to remember they don't always fit into what our learners want or need. So let's think about what is unique about being a child. Here are some sort of features of childhood that I think are important to remember as you are choosing resources and developing lessons for them. So let's look at the first one. Students, well, children, they love what? What do you think that students love? I mean, adults love this too, but I think for kids, they put a priority on this that we as adults forget about. Yeah, they love to play. They love fun, right? Playing games, fun. And I think what's interesting about this is children's definition of fun is actually sometimes more open than we think of as adults. My sister has 5 children, and sometimes they think it's fun to help her clean the house, you know? So it doesn't always have to be games. It doesn't always have to be like competitions or things like that. When kids find meaning in things, they find something that's like a meaningful task, they also consider it fun. So fun, yes, but it doesn't always have to be games. We can sort of like broaden the definition and actually pay attention to what our learners enjoy doing. Now, what about attention span? How would you describe a child's attention span? Yes, very, very short. I definitely learned this last year when I was working with 3-year-olds. They can do something for like 10 minutes maximum, and then it's like, you know, they would ask me to read a book, and then halfway through, they would go and get a different book. So we have to keep that in mind for our students as well. And then as a teacher, you're often managing the classroom through these 2 different kinds of activities. And somebody actually mentioned these activities that sort of bring energy up and then sort of bring down the energy as well. What kind of activities would you sort of call those? Someone mentioned it early on, talking about resources. this is something that I've definitely, there's like a rhythm to these kind of activities that's really useful for learners. So stirring and settling activities, stirring to get their energy up, and then settling to sort of like cut them to calm down and focus again, to manage their energy, because our students have a lot of energy that they need some help sometimes managing. Okay, when we think about sort of skills, the 4 skills that we teach in English class, which 2 do you think go first for students of this age, for primary students? So if we've got reading, writing, listening, and speaking, which of those 2 do you think come first for them? Okay, yeah, Maria's got listening. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So especially for very young learners, they might not be able to write yet or read yet in their native language. So as we teach them English, we're first sort of focusing on listening and speaking. And then the other skills can be incorporated as well. But it's the same as in their native language. You don't teach a child to write before you teach them to speak, to say things, to listen. And like you guys are saying, there's a lot of silent period, right? Where they're just sort of listening and absorbing, and their brain is sort of working out what things mean, what the patterns are. So these come first for our sort of younger primary students. And then when it comes to systems, which do you think is the most important system for these sort of younger learners, like vocabulary or grammar or functional language? Because there's definitely something specific that comes out first as they're acquiring a new language. Any ideas from the attendees? I think you guys probably know. Yep, exactly. Vocabulary. Vocabulary is king. Grammar, is not as important at this point. Functional language, that's big chunks of stuff. But if you just have like singular vocabulary words, when I was teaching last year in Moscow, we were teaching like things like colors, numbers, vocabulary. And then as their language developed and they were comfortable with vocabulary, then we would sort of put it into bigger sentences for them. But that was just sort of to increase their skills and to support what they had already learned. Vocabulary always came first. Okay, and then lastly, when you have a classroom and learning is happening in this sort of formal way, yep, you need to have a student-centered classroom because the kids are the ones that are learning, right? Not the teacher. So it needs to be focused on their engagement and their involvement. So these are all different aspects of childhood, of our primary students that I'm sure you have seen in your own classrooms. And what I like about the Islands books is that the authors really thought about all of this stuff when they were writing the books. They thought about the sort of how children like fun. They thought about what sort of emerges first in language acquisition, so the listening and speaking, the emphasis on vocabulary. It makes it really sort of engaging for students and very supportive for their overall learning process. So let's take a look at what you can actually find in the Islands books. Like I said, we have 6, but these are our 4 most popular ones. And what is cool about them is they hit on 3 buttons that I think are really important for primary resources. So you guys mentioned before sort of having like lots of pictures is important to you, having lots of visual support. So what I like about Islands is they have comics characters. And these comics characters, you'll meet like 1 per book. And we'll look at the different ones in the different books. And the students kind of follow these comic characters throughout the book. And there's videos for them, there's stories for them, and they're very sort of engaging. If you have a sort of a younger primary age student at home, in last webinar on Monday, some of their sons and daughters were coming to watch the videos that I was showing. So you might find them quite engaging even for your own children. Islands also, they have a variety of practice. So it keeps things fresh for learners. Our younger students, they like sort of routine, but they also like to have new things sort of presented to them and new challenges. So it's a variety of practice, some listening, you songs, you have, beautiful pages with lots of color and pictures. And then, of course, one that's really, really important in sort of today's climate is digital support. I'm sure a lot of you are teaching online right now. And I have to say the digital support that I've had from some of my resources has been crucial. It's been so helpful to transition to online teaching. And there's not just sort of digital support for what's in the book, but there's also some extra things that learners can do at home that we'll look at the end as well. So it goes a little bit beyond sort of your standard digital support. And I actually think this is really useful for teachers in Ukraine because I've been here for a couple of years. I know that primary and secondary schools often do quarantines. It's obviously not normally 3 months long, but I frequently have my primary or secondary students come to class and tell me their state school is in quarantine. So that's why I think that this sort of digital support is really useful. But let's look first at the comics characters. And I'll introduce you to the different islands that you go on these adventures. Okay, so in Islands 1, you go to Family Island, which is really sort of relevant for our primary learners. As you can see, there's the family characters there, and then of course a flying dragon. Waldo, who doesn't love a flying dragon? So your sort of younger students, I think, will really, really find him fun and engaging. Then you jump onto Tropical Island, so a little bit more of an adventure, perhaps a little bit more exploration for students who are doing more exploring in the world. And as you can see here, these comic characters with a monkey, because kids will love animal characters as well. And then after Tropical Island, we actually shoot up into space and we go to Space Island. Here you can see all the sort of space cadets that go on the adventures with the learners, and you've got some aliens too. So that's always fun. They look kind of like the yellow minions, so I think students really, really like these kind of sort of silly little characters. And then you get a little bit more glamorous and you go to Movie Island. So you can see there's a director, a couple of other sort of childlike characters, and then Coco the monkey. Because again, kids love sort of animal characters in books. So those are the comics characters that you'll see. And like I said, they meet one group of characters in a book and they sort of travel through the whole book with them. So there's continuity, which I think is really nice for learners too. Even my older primary learners sort of enjoy continuity throughout a book of the same characters. Now let's take a look at the variety of practice, because I think this is one of the areas where Islands really shines and really stands out from its sort of the other resources you might have available to you. Here is a spread that you would see in an Islands book. And as you can see, it's bright, it's very visual, it's very colorful, it's very relevant to what learners are doing in their life, painting, artistry, being at school, maybe this is at home, talking about their bodies. They're already sort of doing this stuff in their native language. So being able to transition that sort of knowledge to English is really useful. And as you can see, the focus is on vocabulary, but there is a balance with grammar. So first you see all the bright, colorful things that are sort of connected to the vocabulary that they're learning in this unit with body. But then you can see by the time they get down to like the third activity, we have some repetition, a chant that includes grammar that supports the vocabulary. So I really like this because this reminds me a lot of what I saw last year in Moscow when I was working with really young learners and how they acquired English sort of in a natural state. We would teach them the vocabulary, but any grammar they got came just from like hearing us say it over and over again. It was never like a focus on grammar for 3 or 4 year olds. Even when I was doing lessons with the higher level, like the older students. So I would teach science class to kindergarteners. They're quite fluent. My emphasis was still on new vocabulary for them. And all of the grammar they were picking up was from repetition. So as you can see here, there's grammar just presented through repetition to support the vocabulary, how we would use it in real life. Okay. Now, that's something I like about sort of the way the Islands presents language, but there's something else I really like about the way Islands presents language, and it's that they present it in context. So you can see the first activity here is a listen and point activity. So it's sort of giving them time, some silent period to hear the vocabulary, internalize it, learn it, and then also see if they can recognize the things, not necessarily the words, but the picture. A lot of course books will do this, but they'll just do it kind of as like a list of vocabulary words, whereas Islands actually presents it in a story. So they present it in a context. So here you have the vocabulary words about my body. I'm going to play for you guys what students hear first, so you can hear the story that the vocabulary is embedded in. Okay. So I'm going to switch to listening. Okay.
Unit 4. Pupils Book, page 40.
Page 40. Activity 1. Listen and point.
Oh dear! Look at my arms and hands! Look at my feet! And my legs! Baba, look at your body!
Look at my head!
Okay, so it's a very simple story, of course. This is for sort of, students who are new to English, but it's done in a context and they can point to it. Like you guys said, it's funny, so the kids will laugh with it. As a teacher, I'm sure you can think of other activities you can do with this. And the grammar is so simple. It's repetitive. Look at my hands, look at my body, look at your hands, look at your head. So they don't have to know a lot of grammar. It's really sort of focusing on their understanding of the vocabulary. And like I said, you can do other things with this. You can have the kids act it out as they're listening to the story. It's really quite a lot of potential in this different approach to introducing vocabulary. So I quite like it myself. Also, some of you guys mentioned that one thing you look for in choosing a resource is songs. So there are lots of songs in our Islands books. And I'm going to show you sort of an example here. So if you look at this song page, it's a happy birthday song. There's a couple of different things that it's actually practicing with your students. One is it's practicing this action vocabulary, right? Clamp, stamp, jump, stamp, jump. But also, if you read through the song, you can kind of see the other language that's supported in the song. So students talking about how old they are. You're practicing numbers then too. I'm 6 today, I'm 7 today. All while it's still practicing this action vocabulary. And it's quite, it can be one of these sort of stirring activities. There's so much you can do with songs. And we sort of suggest that you can use the island songs in 3 stages. So one would be to introduce the new vocabulary and sort of work with it, get them to understand it. And then stage 2 is sort of a silent listening to the song because they have to know the whole song too and the rhythm before they can sing it. And then stage 3 would be production, speaking, singing along with the song as well. And like you can see, this is a very sort of active song. So there's a lot of potential here as well to do various activities. But what I really like about Islands is that they have different genres of songs as well. I'm not great with singing, so it's really nice when the songs are engaging, when I like them, because it lets me sort of get more into it. And it's very sort of interesting for students to hear different kinds of music, different genres of music. So as you see, here's 6 different genres that you would find in an Islands book. And now I'm going to do a little test for you guys to see if you can hear which genres we sort of feature. I'm only going to play 3 of them, not all of them. So let's see here. I'm going to play you a short clip of a song, and I want you to type in the chat box which genre you think this is.
Where are all the gorillas? Let's watch them eat and play. They're past the hills, across the bridge, around the lake and the trees. We could walk through the valley, climb the bridge and watch them play.
It's not quite jazz. I think someone got it with reggae. Latino. This is sort of like, it's got that reggae sort of beat underneath it. Yeah, we do have a jazz one, but I sort of like the sort of Latino reggae music myself. So you see, it's got quite a nice rhythm for the students, and they're going to start dancing to it. I'm sure some of you maybe almost started dancing to it. And here's what the actual sort of lyrics of the song. You can see all the different vocabulary that it is using. So we have like words of movement, we've got places, and so it's got to focus on vocabulary. But as you can see in the song, there's a lot of repetition of useful grammar as well. Where are all the gorillas? Let's watch them. And then they talk about sort of movement around different geographical places. So that's one that I really like. Let's see if you guys can get the next one. Oh, I really like this one. It's a bit silly.
Where's the mouse? Where's the mouse? Is it in the garden or is it in the house? Look, it's in the garden, running up the path. Now it's in the bathroom, oh no! It's in the bath.
Yep, so this is sort of more classical music, sort of opera style. And I can just imagine some of my students, even my older students, being a bit silly with this. It's great when they can have fun with the music as well. And I just think it's sort of cool that Islands exposes them to different genres. So here's the page that you would have with the opera song. And as you can see, it's talking, the vocabulary focus is about different items you have around the house, as well as different rooms around the house. So again, the focus is on very useful, very relevant vocabulary. But then when you look at the lyrics, you also have excellent grammar repetition. Where's the mouse? Where's the mouse? So where's the can be used with a lot of different things, not just a mouse, obviously. Okay, and let's do one more. Now, as an American, I had to include this one. Even though there's lots of great genres in the Islands book, I kind of like this one maybe the best.
7 days in a week, what's your favorite day? Oh, that's easy, it's Tuesday. My favorite.
Yes, exactly, country music. I'm not even from like the country area of the States. I'm from New York, and I still kind of like the country music as well. So this is a great song. As you can see, here is the page with the country music. And it's sort of focusing on days of the week, okay? 7 days of the week, what's your favorite? And if you came to my webinar like maybe about a month ago now on reflective teaching, what I like about this is that it also is it's incorporating some of these reflective principles. So talking about your favorite day. If you were doing some reflective teaching, you can sort of pull that out into like, why is your favorite day? What do you do on that day? So there's, again, like a lot of things that you can pull out of the Islands lessons. So there are some of the songs. There are more, but you know, we don't have that much time, so I'll let you guys explore those songs for yourself. We also have chants. Young learners really, really like chants as well. And it just sort of helps them with rhythm. I don't have very good rhythm, so it helps me sometimes with rhythm. So let's listen to one of these chants, and you can sort of experience the rhythm for yourself.
Pupils Book, page 6.
Activity 5. Listen and chant.
One, two, three, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now count again.
So just a little sample for you to hear the chat. I don't know if any of you guys use chants in your lessons, but it also is sort of like a physical response for the students. You can have the clapping in there. So it's great, a way to get them to sort of practice the language. My students last year, when I was working with very young learners, sometimes maybe they weren't actually producing English on their own yet spontaneously, but their parents would come and drop them off, and they would say things like, oh, you know, my Andrew was singing a song yesterday about days of the week, or let's see, Anna was singing a song about the snow falling down. So children are very, very receptive to sort of musical, rhythmic sort of things that we can expose them to. So I find it super. All right, but also students really like stories. Again, they don't have a very long attention span, so they have to be short stories. But the Islands books follows these comic characters around in different stories that you can use in your classroom. So here's a couple of different stories that we have in Islands 1. And as you can see, they're very bright, they're very visual, they're related to what students are really experiencing in their lives. And that comes with an audio as well, because we always have support for listening. So it's got the characters doing different things, and like I said, you follow them throughout the book. So very useful. You can have students act these out. My students, even my older primary students, love to act things out. They really go a little bit crazy with it. Okay, so that's what you can find inside an Islands course book. Now, as a teacher, what kind of support materials would you like for a course book? Because as part of a set, when you buy a set of Islands books, you also get a teacher's resource kit. What would you like to find in that teacher's resource kit? There are some things I know, like I would desperately like to find in a teacher's resource kit. And I'm sure you have some of the same ideas. So just type in the chat box. What are some of the things that you would like to be able to pull out of this box to use in your classrooms? Okay, yep, chants and videos. We definitely have videos. I'm going to show you those in a couple of minutes. Yep. Okay, yes, cards. I always want flashcards with my resources. Flashcards are key to me. I can't tell you the number of times I've come to a lesson in a resource, and it's been such great vocabulary, very sort of visual vocabulary, and I've gone to look for flashcards and they don't exist. It's so frustrating. So either you have to make your own, or you just have to be like, well, okay, I guess I'm not working with flashcards today. But in Islands, we give you a great ready-made flashcard set. So here you can see there's some flashcards for school-related items. We also give you, oops, hold on just a second. Word flashcards as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do with both sets of flashcards, especially as your learners start reading and recognizing letters. So you can do matching, you can do Palinism, you can do lots of different activities. And it's great because, they're so physical for students to be able to work with. That's one thing I really miss about the digital world, is not having paper for my primary students to work with. So here you can see there's some different vocabulary for things you find around the house. And also we have phonics flashcards for you to use. As I said, you begin to teach your learners reading and sort of pronunciation. We have this kind of support as well. And we have story cards. These are sort of beautiful A4 pieces of paper, cardstock paper, that you can use in your classroom to support the story development that they got in their course book. And what I really like about these is that they work totally on their own. You don't need to have the teacher's book with you, because on the front of the card is this beautiful picture, and on the back of the card is all the instructions for the teacher. So literally all you have to do is pick them up and hold them to the students, and you can actually read sort of the teacher's notes on the back. Let's take a closer look at these teacher notes. So in the front, on the picture side of it, you have like Waldo with like a very full stomach. And before listening to the story, as you can see here, they have some questions for you to ask the learners. These are pretty, new to English learners, so they're not going to be very advanced questions. And as you can see, the last question, how do the children feel, is actually it's sort of like you can do it in L1, which if you came to my reflective learning webinar, I talked about L1 in the classroom and how like I don't think it's, in small doses, it's not a problem. I'm not one of those teachers who's like English only in class, because there's a lot of different development happening in our classrooms, not just language development, but other emotional development, intellectual development, and sometimes they might need to express that in their L1. So you have some questions that you can ask before listening to the story. You listen to the story, and the teacher's notes on the card actually has what you're going to hear, which is great support. And then after listening to the story, you also have the question to ask the students. And you have the answers too that you're trying to get, so you don't have to like look at the flashcard. You can just hold up the flashcard and just be able to do all the things that you want to as a teacher really easily. You don't have to have the teacher's book too. Okay, so I really like that part. Again, very sort of physical stuff. But of course, another aspect of Islands that is crucial these days is the digital support. So let's talk a little bit about the digital support you can find. When I talk about digital support, could you just type in the chat box like what kind of things you would like out of digital support? Because there's a wide variety of things that you were talking about. Actually, some of the things you mentioned before were videos, for example. Is there any other sort of digital support that you would like to see as part of a resource? Because there's quite a lot we can do now, and I think Islands does a great job. Games, excellent. Thank you for that excellent segue. So there is not just a game for Islands, but there's a whole online world that you can do, that your students can do at home. This is more for them to do like at home, because it merges sort of education and entertainment together, and kids these days love computer games. They don't care what language it's in. If it's a game and there's a challenge, they're gonna play it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what students get in this online world. As you can see, it's a pupil's book, so it's the course book, and inside the course book, they have an access code for this online world. So I'm going to show you a short video of the fun sort of educational entertainment that they can get, and they can do all on their own at home.
Welcome to the exciting online world of Islands.
To begin the adventure, students must create their avatar. After they choose boy or girl, their avatar with a funny name appears. You can choose some or all of the features. The skin color, hairstyle, hair color, the eyes and mouth. They can even change their clothes. When they start the game, first they meet the characters who will join them in the adventure.
Hello. What's your name? Hello. I'm Rita. Hello. I'm Zach. Hi. I'm Oscar.
Hi, I'm Millie.
Come and play with us. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1.
Every scene has a quest. Here they must find Oscar. But first, they have to collect special items. When they click on the station guard, he asks for the train ticket.
Let me see your ticket.
So they must look for the train ticket. Once they find it, the item is automatically sent to the item's school bag icon.
Okay, so there you have just a small sample. I see some of you want to choose your avatar. I know, right? It's kind of a fun thing to do. And it's so nice to see so many of you being excited about this resource in the chat box. It is something that I think will really appeal to learners. Like I said, they love playing games. They love computer games. I asked my primary students, what'd you do this weekend? I played computer games with my friend. So they're already interested in this. All you have to do is add the English. And the English is very well supported in the game. So they hear the phrases, and you saw in the speech bubbles too, what the different characters were saying. And they get to jump around and find things and explore. And it's supporting what has been learned in the lessons in the books. So it's an excellent tool for you to use with your students. So also, some of you were saying before that you'd like to see some like grammar exercises online, sort of that kind of maybe more like English work kind of things, which you also have. So you have the online world, which is the game. And then in the activity book, you have a different access code. And this access code will get you into sort of the digital resources that are more sort of focused on the language. So students go, they have the access code, they register for the first time as a new user. And then when they come back, they have created a username and a password. So they just have to put that into the website, and it sort of saves all of their data. So it kind of creates profiles for each of your students. This is what it looks like. And I think I've seen a lot of digital resources this year. And for primary learners, I think this is an excellent layout because it sort of shows them the pages. Their English maybe isn't that advanced right now. They're not going to be reading all of the words very carefully for my birthday or goodbye. So it has pages for them to sort of flip through. And there's tons of resources at the bottom. It's not just the activity book, but it's also, as you can see, songs and chants, flashcards, story cards, posters, and the DVD. So the students get almost everything that you get as a teacher too. Let's look first at the activity book and what it looks like as an online resource. If we were doing the unit about pets and maybe I sort of assigned homework or for the online resource from Unit 5, students go in, and as you can see, there's lots of different activities here. There's some that are focused kind of on spelling. And then I like this one because it's sort of more interactive for the students. It's a click and drag. So they click the right word and they drag it into the spot where they think it goes. And then the best thing of all is that it grades itself. As a teacher, you don't have to worry about sort of checking every single answer. So students click submit answers and it gives them instant feedback. I think this is so useful for our primary learners. Their attention spans are short, and if they do homework for you one day and it doesn't get checked until 2 days later or even just 24 hours later, their brains are already sort of like on to something else. They're not really thinking about correcting their homework. So getting the instant feedback is actually super, super useful for our primary learners. They can make immediate corrections. Okay, let's just take a look very quickly at the other sort of resources the students have. They have the song and chants, so every song that you sing. They have not just the sort of version you have in class, but they also have a karaoke version. So like I said, my younger students love songs. It really helps them remember the language. So you can give them that as homework to practice the song, to learn the song, to teach their parents the song, or maybe their brother or sister, to get a recording of them singing the song in karaoke version. There's lots of things you can do with the song resources. Additionally, you have the flashcards online in a digital sort of version. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So you have them all in units. Again, pretty easy for primary learners to deal with because they can just click on the number. Here you've got animals, and as you can see, they can hear too. They press the speaker button and they can hear the pronunciation of the word. Okay. And they have the DVD. So you, as a teacher, have the DVD of the cartoon characters. There's like 4 or 5 videos per book that sort of are used for review to support, like there's a video for every two-ish units. And then they also can rewatch these videos at home. So here you can see our comics characters going on a little mini adventure. You watch it in class, and then students can go back and watch it as for homework. They might enjoy it so much they end up watching all of them, so you do have to be a little bit careful of that. I'm going to show you now just a short clip of one of the Islands 1 videos. And you can see how engaging it is for learners and how useful the language is.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I'm Zach. Hello. My name's Millie.
How old are you?
2, 3, 4, 5. I'm 6.
How old are you?
I'm 7. Look. Wow. Red, blue, yellow, pink, purple, brown, black, white.
What's this?
A flower.
What colour is it?
It's yellow.
Who's this?
Waldo.
What colour is he?
Waldo is green. Uh-oh. Red, blue, orange. And pink.
Goodbye.
Okay, so I'm sure you guys as teachers saw so much potential in that video. It's very focused on vocabulary, focused on what the learners had learned. They talk about how to greet somebody, how to meet somebody, how to say how old they are, so numbers and colors. Very funny, with Waldo getting all of the paint on him. It reminds me a lot, like I said, of what I was doing last year with like very young learners and being like, what color is it? What is it? So it's very realistic use of longer structures, so much potential there and very engaging for students. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I find incredibly useful in a resource that you can find in Islands and how you can use them to their fullest potential. Now, the best part of the webinar is your discount code. I'm going to tell you how you can get a 25% discount on Islands products. So if you see, here is the promo code. You will use this at checkout, which I'll show you in a second. So just like take a picture of this or a screenshot of this. Here is our shop website. So you can also take a screenshot of this or take a picture of this. So you go to this website with the promo code, and I'll show you how to sort of do all of the little things you need to do to get the product. So you choose the product that you want, any Islands level, and you can see there is the link here in the chat box. My moderator just put it up there. Okay. And then when you go to checkout, you hit apply code, or you hit the Ukrainian word for apply code. Like I said, my Ukrainian pronunciation is very bad. I'm not going to try. So you input the code there, like this, okay? And then you hit apply, and it will give you the 25% discount. So thank you everyone so much for coming to our webinar today. I've been very happy to talk to you about how you can use islands in your class to support your learners where they are and make learning English very fun for them, very engaging for them, and very useful for them in like an achievable way. You will be getting your certificates within a week. So look in your email inbox. If you don't see it there, check your spam box. It might have gone there. If you don't see it there, then you can give us a call and follow up on that. If you guys have any questions, I can stay for a few minutes and answer them. I didn't quite see any questions throughout the webinar, so hopefully that means everything was pretty clear. But if you have a question, just type it into the chat box, and I or my moderator will sort of take a minute to address it. In this case, let's say one day, I would give them a call again. Sometimes some of these things take longer than expected, unfortunately. It may be that there's so many people trying to use the ePanel that we've had to make adjustments. So just sort of stay on top of it, give them a call. Maybe things will sort of calm down for that in a bit. Or you can call the number. My moderator just put the phone number into the chat box. Do I miss New York? Sometimes. I miss the food in New York. I miss some of the things. Right now I miss a lot more just because I'm in quarantine and I can't have fun in Kiev the same way. So, but for the most part, like I'm very happy here in Kiev, and I actually see a lot of parallels between Kiev and New York. So it's very cool to live in Kiev. I'm very happy to be here. Any other questions that I can sort of answer for you guys? No, I don't think so. All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for attending. Diakayu, and we hope to see you at another Internal webinar. Please do check all of the webinars that we have available. We still have several more going for this book campaign, and we offer like a lot of webinars throughout the year. So stay in touch. We hope to see you guys again soon, and have a good day. Stay safe.